Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Don't you understand, George? It's because you were not born.
Film church.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
It's a contest, they say, of stamina, but it's who can maintain their sanity the longest. And that's what it is. That's what it's come to. Because when you go insane, you lose.
Hello, and welcome to Film Church Radio, the podcast that treats cinema as a religion. It's Sunday. I'm Branden.
I'm Lewis.
And we are here to talk about music.
Movies.
No, it's movies. It's always movies. Each week, Lewis and I alternate picking a film for both of us to watch and discuss. Today, I picked the documentary film Hands on a Hardbody from 1997, directed by S.R. Bindler. We don't usually pick documentaries. We only have a couple of those in the, history of episodes. But this film I've been wanting to watch for a little while now, and was reminded of its existence after we watched the film Bernie a couple of weeks ago. That has kind of references the competition a little bit because it also takes place, but the film Bernie also takes place in East Texas. But the Hands on a Hardbody competition takes place in my hometown of Longview, Texas. And the way that I found out about it was Quentin Tarantino mentioned it in an interview with Jimmy Fallon. And I had no idea that this documentary existed, but I remembered the competition from like my childhood. And I couldn't believe that it did exist. And so I put it on my list, and I've been kind of seeking it out for a while. And we finally watched it now. If you want to know what we will be watching next week, be sure to stay till the end of the episode because Lewis will reveal it at the end. As always, we'd like to say thank you to everybody who's been listening. You can find us on all the social media platforms. Send us a like and a comment and subscribe. Keep up with us because we post extra content on our social media. We've got an MCU review of Doctor Strange and an Obi-Wan Kenobi finale reaction video on our YouTube channel. Everything is at Film Church Radio. Yeah, so thanks everyone for being here this Sunday. Before we get into this documentary, we always talk about what we've been watching this week because it may or may not influence what we think of the main film. So, Lewis, what have you been watching?
It's been, first of all, hello.
Hello.
I always feel like there's such a gap between me saying my name and then like me kind of coming in.
There is. I tried to make it quick this time, but it was still pretty long-winded.
Yeah, it's always the same. But hello. This week has been all about dinos. Dinosaurs. So, Jurassic World Dominion is out in cinemas and doing really good business.
Yes.
So, I decided, go and see it. But before I did that, I wanted to rewatch a few of my favorite Jurassic Parks. I always see it as an excuse, and Jurassic Park is one of the greatest action blockbuster movies I would say ever made.
Yeah.
So I was excited to go back and watch that. So we started with Jurassic Park, and I know that you've done the same thing.
Yeah, I've rewatched a few of them. Yeah.
So we're gonna go
for the new one
and talk about them a little bit.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park is perfect, I think.
Yeah, it's a perfect movie. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, endlessly quotable.
Yeah.
The CGI still holds up.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
And it's all the character stuff too. I mean, it really makes a difference when you go back and watch these new ones. The other stuff really stands out, especially so I watched Jurassic Park and then I watched The Lost World and then I watched Jurassic World. I skipped number 3. But I watched Jurassic World because I wanted to be reminded of how did these new characters get introduced, like the Chris Pratt and the Bryce Dallas Howard, because I couldn't really remember their characters very well. So I wanted to at least familiarize myself with them before I went on to the Jurassic World Dominion. But rewatching those, like Jurassic World, it just seems like such a, like, first of all, we don't need any of these sequels. Like Jurassic Park was fine by itself. But
Yeah.
Jurassic World, it just seems like such a bad attempt at so many things, especially the female characters. Like like you look at Bryce Dallas Howard in and it's not Bryce Dallas Howard's fault. Like, she's a great actress and she's also a great director. She didn't direct the movie, but she does direct stuff. I think it's more the writing that I see is the problem. But it's like, you look at her character in that, and then you go back and look at the Laura Dern character in the first Jurassic Park, and it's so progressive. Like, she's such a, like, badass. She's a smart doctor, and they smartly make fun of, like, the men versus women thing.
Yeah, and definitely the old way of thinking versus the new. You know, there's the line between Hammond and her when she's going to go and turn the breakers back on towards the end of Jurassic Park, and he's like, "Well, you're a woman. Are you sure you want to go?" And she's like, "Yeah, I can do anything you can do."
Yeah, and she's like, we can discuss the. She has a really funny line. I can't remember it right now, but she was like, we can discuss the,
sexual politics later.
Yeah. She's like, I'm gonna go get this done.
Yeah, and it's just.
And when she's taught, there's also the line whenever Ian Malcolm is like, God creates man creates God, all that stuff, and then she at the end she's like, dinosaur eats man, woman inherits the earth, because she wasn't talking about women the whole time.
No, it's brilliant on so many levels.
Yeah. It's just like, so how do you get to Jurassic World and you just miss so many things? It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. No. But it's not anywhere near the first one.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when I rewatched it, and we talked a little bit about it last week, when I rewatched it this last time, I was like, you can see more and more of the fact that they're nodding at the audience, like, okay, we know you kind of want to see this, just fan service, which I thought was, too much fan service. And then I saw Dominion, which I know we're going to get onto, and if Rise of Skywalker is fan service in a movie, I don't know what this is. It's like, it's the bits that I do like, but just not told as well.
Yeah.
I really didn't like Dominion at all. I didn't. They seem to forget the dinosaurs half the time.
Yeah. And
then would just kind of throw them in.
Yeah.
None of the characters felt real anymore. Like, I feel like everyone had just been introduced to play a caricature of the character that we knew from the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because the Ian Malcolm character especially, I feel like, is an extreme version of his Ian Malcolm in the first one, and not at all the one from the second one.
No, because if you watch the first one, I mean, I feel like it's the typical not Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum kind of thing. Like, he's still normal, but he does those little things that just tip him over the edge, like when he makes the like noise. And then in the second one, when I think there's a line where he says, "Increase your rate of climb," instead of
like hurry the hell up.
Yeah, there's just those little touches there that just make it a Goldblum cat. And this was like, it was dialed up to 11.
Yeah,
to the point where I was just like, this isn't the character I know anymore.
Yeah,
I get is a real shame.
I get what you're saying, but here's what happened to me. Okay. I took a lot longer to go see this movie, and I saw some really bad ratings. Yeah, I didn't read any reviews or anything, but like a couple of the people I know, I saw rate it very low, like half a star.
Okay, that's a bit extreme. I wouldn't go half a star.
Well, but still, it was good for me to see that, because I went into this movie like, this is going to be absolute garbage, and I'm ready. I'm ready for it. And that made me enjoy the movie because I just accepted it for being like something that was going to be terrible. So anything that was like a little off or terrible, I just was kind of like, all right, whatever. And then, you know, once it like the action picked up again, I was like, this is pretty fun. Like the most, I think, disorienting thing for me was when they're in the village, and like you were saying, there's a moment where there's a lot of action going on and no dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And I even mentioned when rewatching the first Jurassic Park this time, before I even got to these later ones, I was like, there's not a lot of guns in this movie. It's really all very clean, simple action. And then by the time you get to this movie, there's a full-on, everyone has a gun shooting at each other, hiding behind stuff, no dinosaurs around. And it's like, wait, what are we watching? Is this like, you know, Mission Impossible or like the Bourne Ultimatum or whatever? Like,
it did feel like that at times. And I think, you know, it definitely got its wires tangled.
Yeah.
You know, there was just too much, like I said, too much fan service. You know, but I did think that the best parts were Bryce Dallas Howard's segments. I thought when she was on the screen alone, the film was at its best.
Like when she's in the jungle and she gets in the water. Yeah,
I thought that was really good. I liked the bit of her. I mean, she wouldn't have been able to outrun a raptor, you know. But that scene in the city, I can't remember which one it was, where it says it was set, is really cool as well. There was like
the underground selling of the dinosaurs and the fight, the ring fights and stuff.
Yeah, there was certain touches like that I really enjoyed. Chris Pratt,
he's good when he's goofy. He's not goofy in this movie, and it doesn't really work. And like the parts, I just was like, what is going on when like the two, like, you know, they're not T-Rexes, but they kind of look like mini T-Rexes that come out of the cages when they're in the ring or whatever, and he like holds his hand up to him. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like,
I know, it's
GTFO. Like,
yeah, I know that you said that with the first one, there's not a lot of guns, and I think it's because the filmmakers realized that these are dinosaurs, like, that wouldn't have been taken down by guns.
Yeah.
Like, whereas this film, it's like, at one point, he literally grabs a dinosaur and punches it away. And I was like, I just...
Yeah, and his, like...
It's not...
And his weapon of choice is a gun. And it's like, I can't even remember him ever using it. I'm sure he does. But I'm like, why is this your accessory? Like, you don't...
And I know this... Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know this is going to sound really, really stupid, but the first film, you know, there was that debate of, like, could Jurassic Park happen? Is this something that is believable? Which the science behind it is, you know, to a point, you're like, okay, that, you know, that theoretically could work. Whereas this, there is no shred of any believability in any part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, but that's where it has to go. I mean, what else are you going to do with it? Like you're talking about this franchise that doesn't need to be here. And it's like, if you're going to have a franchise, I mean, that doesn't need to be here. It has to go to these places that make absolutely no sense. Otherwise, I mean, the whole thing would never make sense anyway. It's like there was the moment when Chris Pratt is on the motorcycle trying to get on the plane and the raptors are after him and he jumps and he gets on the plane. And I was like, okay, well, there it is. Like, there's where they go next. It's the Fast and the Jurassic. Like, just cross them over. Like,
I mean, that's a good thing. That's a good observation. I hadn't thought of it like that, but it is like like you said, Mission Impossible, Fast and Furious. It's every action film that they could think put together.
Yeah,
you know. I do want to say though that I do have a very soft spot for The Lost World.
I do too.
I love a lot of sequences in that film. I love Spielberg's, you know, touch of humor throughout it as well. There's you know, there's a lot to love in that film.
I agree. I mean, did you go see it in theaters when it came out?
No, the first one I went to see was Jurassic Park 3 in theaters.
Okay. I don't know why my parents took me to see Jurassic World I mean, not Jurassic World, but The Lost World, the second one that Spielberg did. Because that came out in, what, 97?
Yeah.
So I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I vividly remember seeing that movie because the whole sequence where the T-Rexes are pushing the trailer off the cliff, dude.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the theater. I mean, the listeners can't see this, but both of my hands were they were bent, folded on my mouth, just like this for that whole sequence. And like at one point, my mom like looked over and was like, "Are you okay?" Because I was like, that was like the most intense theater experience that I probably will ever have because I was like a child. You know what I mean? So like that movie has a very soft spot for me too because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sequence is one of the best in the Jurassic World Park universe.
Franchise, yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
Do you feel like this is kind of what Scorsese was talking about a few years ago, you know, the whole controversy of him being like, these are theme park movies. Like, is this kind of...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think the first Jurassic Park is not... It's a blockbuster. It's not it's not a kind of cash grab. You know, when that first came out, it was like the big, like Spielberg's big film. You know? And then the second one, it started to become this theme park movie of like, okay, we know you like this and this. Here's a new way, but it was still fresh.
Yeah.
Whereas now it is just like, okay, here's everything you like again.
Yeah.
It is like going back to the same theme park, but it's not as good.
Well, and I think the studios that try to make, like if they do make a new property, they're trying to build the franchise into it, so they don't put everything into the movie. They like put it in all the other stuff, and it's not as good. It's not as good as like Spielberg doing it. Yeah,
it's just using the IP.
Yeah,
it's just literally being like, we know people are going to go and see a Jurassic movie. So there is literally no thought to the script.
Yeah.
Whatsoever, you know, and
because it's about the toys and the rides and
the
merchandise.
Exactly. And it's super disappointing. I mean, you follow me on Twitter, you know that I've been doing a new thing where every time something is announced that is either a prequel, sequel, franchise related, I just retweet it with the Will Smith looking sad and tired picture. And when you're looking for it, I think I've just become numb to just the amount of stuff that is franchise now, or is kind of building up to some big universe thing. It's exhausting. I don't know where this original IP is going to come from anymore. Yeah. Which is a real shame. But hopefully this is the end of the Jurassic franchise.
It's not.
I'm praying
I guarantee you it is not, dude. I'm sorry. But that's the thing is like,
I wouldn't go and see another one.
Exactly. It's like, that's the thing is like, for all the hate that this movie is getting, it's like, just don't go watch it. Like, you should know what this is. Like, this is not a movie we needed. Like, if you want to see dinosaurs, go see it. If not, don't. Like, it's not, if you know, that's...
And as I said last week, I think I'm becoming less like precious over my favourite things. Like I can just go and watch Jurassic Park again. I would watch Jurassic Park 6 times rather than watch the whole of the series. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to do in the future. Yeah. I'm just going to stay at home and watch Jurassic Park.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I will say that I already said that I enjoyed this movie a little more than you did just because I set my expectations so low. But I liked it. I liked Jurassic World Dominion more than the other Chris Pratt ones. Like more than Jurassic World and more than Fallen Kingdom.
Fallen Kingdom I didn't like at all.
Yeah. I like the dinosaurs in this one. Like the ones with the feathers and like the chicken one with the long fingernails. Yeah. Like, and the swamp, like just the swampiness of that whole area was so cool looking to me. Which I feel like we didn't really see much of that in the other Jurassic Worlds.
No, yeah. I think that, again, Lost World did a really good job of showing like them in their natural habitat. Yeah. the raptors in the long grass is just, again, another great sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it did. I mean, like I said, I don't think it was a half a star film. I think it's still, parts of it were really entertaining.
Yeah.
But it just didn't light any sparks for me at all.
Yeah.
So it was a shame.
Yeah.
What else have you been watching?
I have been watching. I rewatched Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy, which I haven't seen in years, and it also brought back an old theater experience for me, dude. Like, I was not supposed to go see this film in theaters, but I was working on someone's Eagle Scout project, and afterwards, their dad was like, "Do y'all want to go to the movies?" We're like, "Sure," and he like dropped us off at the movie theater, and me and two other guys went and saw Anchorman.
Yeah.
And that was probably the first time I'd ever seen a PG-13 movie in a movie theater. So it was like a great experience. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, I didn't even get half the jokes. I was like 13 years old or something. And, I was highly sheltered. So it was like, I really didn't get a lot of the jokes. But, and then afterwards, when his dad picked us up, he had like gone and looked up the movie and was like apologizing. He was like, "You were not supposed to go see that." He's like, "I'm gonna have to call your parents and tell them what you saw and
oh my gosh,
take the heat." And
yeah,
but yeah, just like rewatching it was like, man, that movie holds up so well.
Yeah,
it is so funny. It is a great comedy.
Yeah, I watched it a few years ago again, that and Anchorman 2, and I like them both. Anchorman is obviously the better, but I think Anchorman 2 has got some really funny sequences in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's catching everyone at their peak.
Yeah.
Which is great,
I don't know why this is kind of embarrassing for me to admit this, but also I find it hilarious that when I saw that movie as a 13-year-old and the part where all the different anchors from the different news stations show up for the battle or whatever, when Luke Wilson shows up, I legit thought that was Tom Cruise. For the whole movie, like to the point where when he showed up, I was like, "Ha, Tom Cruise," and I like said it out loud.
Oh man,
no one corrected me.
Nice. There's some good friends there, not in public.
I mean, we were all pretty sheltered. Maybe they didn't know who Tom Cruise was.
Yeah. You're like, man, Branden really likes this Tom Cruise.
Yeah. But yeah, also watched Despicable Me, which is good. I mean, I don't have much to say about it, but yeah, good movie.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen any of them.
Really?
Yeah.
That might be a good one to watch with your kid later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I'm getting a bit of a list together. So
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, anything else for you?
So there was one. It was a Criterion that I got a while ago, called The Incredible Shrinking Man, and it kind of looked really, it's from I think it's from the 60s or late 50s. It's very kind of, the B movie, schlocky kind of thing.
Yeah.
This guy gets exposed to a radioactive cloud, and then it kind of like mixes with, I think it's a tree fertilizer, like 6 months later, and he starts to shrink. And at first I thought it was like really funny because it'd get to the point where you'd see the back of a chair and there'd be a character talking to it, and then it would like, after the conversation happened, it would cut and it would show him in the chair and he'd be like really small and the chair was huge. And I was like, this is so funny. And then it turns into like an adventure survival movie. And it really caught me off guard because he gets trapped in the basement and he's the size of, like a spider.
Okay.
But he's trying to find food and water, and there is like a massive spider that's down here in the basement that's going to get him. And there's like his wife is like moving out, so he's trying to get her attention. And then at the end, it turns into like this really existential kind of like, I don't know, philosophical thing. And it just caught me off guard. I just could not believe this film that I thought was going to be really, funny and like, oh, look how terrible it is, turned out to be such an interesting and entertaining hour and a half.
Yeah. It sounds good.
It was great.
The 7-Year Itch, is that what you said it was called?
The Incredible Shrinking Man.
Oh, The Incredible. Okay. I was like looking through the titles of movies you watched, and I was like, was that it?
Yeah.
Okay. 1957.
Yeah, and the CGI for that time is really pretty good. It's never. No, he never looks disproportionate.
Yeah. That's the great thing about like movies, older movies that use special effects. It's like they knew how much to show to make it real. They knew how to shoot it right and make it feel real and create a sequence. Whereas like people, I feel like unless they're a really good filmmaker, they're just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna do the movie magic thing,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and they don't actually think out the sequence of how to like present it to the audience and make it believable.
Yeah, it's talking of films that we want to show like our kids one day. I cannot wait to show my daughter this when she's like 5 or 6. Because it's just so much fun.
Yeah,
I think it's just going to blow a little mind.
Yeah.
But it's one I'm going to watch again very soon. I really loved it.
Sweet.
Yeah,
I'll have to check it out.
And that was pretty much it.
Nice.
Up until Hands on a Hardbody.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the feature of the episode, which is Hands on a Hardbody from 1997. The IMDb summary is 24 contestants compete in an endurance/sleep deprivation contest in order to win a brand new Nissan Hardbody truck. The last person to remain standing with his or her hand on the truck wins. An absurd marketing gimmick at first glance, the contest proves to be much more. So I mentioned there's so much to say about this movie for me personally. Yeah. But I don't know. It's not exactly what I expected. But also there's been like this myth around this contest for my entire life, literally, because this was filmed in 1995, so I was 5 years old, but the documentary came out in 97, and we would drive by. It happened. That competition happened every year. We would drive by it. I knew about it. I always pictured it as like a big truck in a boat.
Oh, really?
But it was like this tiny, and maybe they ended up doing that later or something. I don't know why I thought that, but it's like this little truck.
Yeah.
And also, like, one of the biggest things that surprised me, it's just with the times, it's like almost been 20 years, but it's a $15,000 truck. I'm like, man, I wish new trucks were $15,000 still.
Yeah.
Jeez. But I really want to know what you thought of this movie before I get into it personally, because I feel so close to this. Like, this wasn't a big spectacle for me because it's so literally was in my backyard. So tell me what you thought of this movie.
Okay, so kind of going in, I'd heard of this kind of like Hands on a Hardbody contest before. I've seen it in, I think, other American sitcoms and stuff. They've done, specifically that 70s show did an episode around it.
Okay.
So I was familiar with like the idea of it.
Yeah.
What I was really interested was to see, because we live in Texas, we know Texans, so to see the kind of people that would be willing to do it and kind of be a bit more of a what's the word? Bit more of a character study.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Of the people that would be willing to do it. But this, I know I said it to you before we started recording. This film, to me, it encapsulates the American dream at its purest and kind of its most sellable. Is like, you know, all these people kind of get together, and it's basically whoever puts in the hardest work will win.
Yeah.
And gets a truck, you know, and the truck is a symbol to many other people of, you know, wealth or just basically living, like being able to work and like drive around and stuff like that. But along the way, they make friends with the people they're standing next to, you know, they're cheering each other on.
Yeah.
They're, you know, laughing together. I thought it would be a little bit different than what we got. But by the end, there was still people I was rooting for.
Yeah.
And like, I really hope they win. Like, I really want them to stick it out.
Did you expect it to be different based on watching Bernie a couple of weeks ago? Or just based on personal experience?
Not really. I think I was, you know, there was elements of it that were surprising. I think the fact that obviously it was some kind of radio, like branded event. So they're all wearing like the matching t-shirts and the hats and that they got like the breaks and stuff like that. I thought it was literally they had to have the hand on the car the whole time.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So there was things like that, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So it is more of a mental thing than it is the physical.
So they can
side
go to the
isn't tough.
bathroom, they can eat, they can sleep as you know. Basically, I think every hour they get a 5-minute break, and every 6 hours they get a 15-minute break. So it's like, you know, however long you can sleep in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Or you know, you could sleep for 2 minutes every hour or something like that. You know, just enough to like keep you from falling over completely.
But what I was not expecting was just the physical and mental toll it was taking on people.
Yeah.
I think the depiction of like sleep depravity is super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this film.
Yeah, because there's so many. It seemed like there was so many times through the documentary that we would get an interview with one of these contestants, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm doing this," and then an hour later they were out.
Yeah, I knew as soon as the documentary went like slow motion and faded to black, I was like, they're out. When they were like, "Yeah, I'm doing great. I haven't got any mental problems right now," and then it would slow down, go to black, and I'd be like, "Okay, they're gone."
Yeah.
But even the spoilers, of course, we say this every week, but even the end was like shocking. The fact that what's that? Let me just find a name. The fact that Norma wasn't thinking and took her hands off to clap.
Yeah.
And that was it. She was done.
Yep.
And I was like, when they kind of revealed that, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the characters were perfect. There was like one of everybody. You know, there was like the super religious person that was going through it. There was the person that had already been there.
Yeah.
That had done it before. There was like the old timer, the young buck, the Marine. You know, there was just like everybody. It was it was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it would be interesting to watch this with a group of people, like at a film festival or something. Mm-hmm. This film ended up doing really well. You know, it won some festival awards and kind of toured a bit. I got the sense that was probably where Quentin had seen it, was at a festival or maybe at because when he talks about it in the interview, he says it's a contest in Austin. But I don't...
Oh, South by Southwest, maybe.
Yeah, maybe they showed it at South by, or like Tarantino used to do those... He used to host his own festival in Austin, and he would show films. Like, he would pick the films to show, so maybe this was one he showed or something.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, it was... I ended up watching it twice, because I was just trying to, like... Well, the first time I was just enjoying it, and the second time I was just trying to get a sense for everything that happened so we could talk about it in the show. But yeah, literally, I mean, this movie, is in my backyard. Like the Kmart across the street, like our neighborhood was behind that Kmart.
Oh, jeez.
So it's weird watching this because it's like, I kind of mentioned this again with Bernie, was like, you know, being transported to your childhood or whatever, but these are literally real people that I, you know, would bump into, you know, not that I know for sure that I bumped into them, but it's like they're right across the street from where I'm living as a child, you know?
I was going to ask, kind of leading on from that, did you recognize anybody?
So I don't think so. I mean, like I said, I was 5 years old when they filmed this. So, you know, if I did recognize someone, they would look older, I'm sure. But there was one woman, it was the lady who is like holding the baby, and she's like Norma's friend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
they said that she woke up at like 5 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, and knew God wanted her to pray.
Yeah.
And then Norma was laughing like a crazy person at the same time, so it had to have been...
I'm sure we're going to talk about Norma in depth at some point.
But yeah, so this lady, I was like, this looks like somebody my mom would know. So I took a screenshot of her and sent the screenshot to my mom. I was like, hey, I'm watching this documentary. Do you happen to know this woman? And I won't say her name, but my mom was like, oh, is that my friend so-and-so? And I was like, I mean, I don't know.
Oh,
my gosh. She kind of looks like her. So it's possible. I don't have confirmed, but another clue that I have is like there's a point when all these other religious people are showing up for Norma, and it's either Norma's husband or that lady's husband that's holding the baby that has a shirt that says homeschool on it. And I grew up homeschooled in this town. So I'm like, okay, surely we know these people.
Yeah.
At some point, you know, I've run into them or acquainted with them. I mean, not anymore. It's been years, and we moved out of that town when I was like 15. So, anyway, so like there's so much, I don't know. There's so much personal bizarreness with this film that it's hard for me to like really enjoy it. You know what I mean? Yeah. In some ways, or at least not maybe enjoy isn't the right word, because I did enjoy the movie, but enjoy it in a way that somebody, especially someone who like grew up in another country, would enjoy it, or someone who grew up in another part of this country would enjoy it. Because this is like the culture that I come from, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there were a lot of things that were surprising to me about it, and annoying to me about it. But like the documentary is like very well made for what I can tell they had like no money for, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's a few things I think that make this documentary an award-winning film, and one of them is Benny Perkins, because without him, you would have had nothing. Gosh. Like, I mean, they had interviews, like they show the same kind of setup interview that they have with Benny with Norma.
Yeah.
But they show it for like a couple of seconds, so she didn't really give them anything good. You know what I mean? It's like they probably interviewed her for like 10 minutes and she was like, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And that was it. But Benny, who had done the competition before and won before, got really philosophical about it, and was able to they were able to kind of keep putting in his interview throughout the documentary to kind of all the stuff that he said was going to happen happens. Yeah. You know, especially, you know, towards the end when he's like, people are sticking it out, and when the reasons why people are going to fall out, and the people who he thinks are going to endure to the end. Because even at one point, one of the younger girls says that, I think maybe is it Kelly? Yeah, I think it was Kelly who was like,
I like Kelly.
Yeah, I did too, and she was the one I kind of wanted to win, honestly. But there, at one point, she's like, I don't see how like a 45-year-old or a 50-year-old can make it that long. She's like, I think this is a young person's game. And then right after that, they show a clip of Benny saying, it's the older, mature people that are going to make it to the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the people who have life experience, which I didn't really catch until the second time I watched it. But he kind of lays it all out for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think he kind of makes the story of the documentary. And then I also think the editing of the documentary was really good, because when you go back and look at it, most of like the big plot point, I guess you'd call them plot points, that happen throughout the documentary, they don't get it. They didn't catch it on film. Like they had to figure out how to tell the story, like tell you what happened without actually showing it. Cause I mean, there was probably only, I think, 2 or 3 camera guys. There might've been 3 camera guys, but only 2 cameras. But they just couldn't get everybody at once, all the time. So it's like they were going to miss stuff.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, if this was made today, you'd have, like, GoPros set up, like, on the dash.
Yeah, exactly. You would have you would have caught everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
People with cell phones, like, you couldn't even do this now because everybody would just stand there on their cell phone. They wouldn't even talk to each other.
Yeah, because there was times that I felt that it was spoon feeding us stuff, but then I did realize that because it didn't necessarily catch it all, it had to kind of layer it. So, for example, like Kelly, like when she takes her hand off, she's like, just before we get a clip of her, like, I'm not going to move around because I don't trust myself. If I move, I'm going to take my hand off. Yeah. Like, and then it kind of comes up with the words, and it's like, Kelly's disqualified because she moved and her hand came off.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, like, that is a bit too obvious. But then, like you said, when you get to the end, you're like, of course. Like, there's literally 2 cameras.
Yeah.
Potentially. Like, how are they going to catch that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know. So I think they did a good job of kind of, I don't know, setting the scene and kind of showing you what happened.
Yeah, delivering the tension of the story still.
Yeah.
Like, without actually having it on camera, they delivered the tension of the story. And I think it probably works even better with an audience.
I bet. Yeah, I would think so.
Because the crowd, I'm sure, was laughing at certain points, or like, you know, oohing and awing at all the points of, like, you know.
Yeah.
Like you said, like the part where it says what happened to Kelly, you know, I can imagine the audience was like, oh, you know.
Yeah. And then the bit after that where she's just kind of wandering around.
Yeah, she just lost it. She just kind of, I mean, which I get. I mean, you went through all of that. And I mean, I just felt for her so much because, I mean, okay, even the contest, like one of the judges in the beginning was like, Kelly's going to win.
Yeah.
She's like, she's prepared. She's got the right nutritious food. She's got the right shoes. She's got the right attitude. And then in her interview, she's like, I can't go back to waiting tables. Like, I've gotta get this. Like, and that
line was really sad to me. I just, you know, like you said, I know that it would have been a little bit more in 95, but a $15,000 truck is not going to change your life. Do you know what
Yeah, but I mean, you did say 95. So yeah, it was, money was worth a lot more back then.
Yeah.
But
it wouldn't mean that you would never have to work again, is what I'm trying to say. Not that it wasn't a big deal, because if someone offered me a truck right now, I'd take it.
Right.
You know? But it wouldn't mean that you wouldn't have to work again. And it was just like this, you know, it shows small town America, I think, really well. Yeah. And this is their world, you know, this is their world.
Yeah.
They had people recommending songs for them on the radio and like requesting songs for them and stuff like that throughout the whole contest. And, you know, you could tell that the town had their favorites. Yeah. But this was like a big deal, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, it was, but I can also see why, like my parents didn't participate in it or anything like that, or why maybe they didn't discuss it further than, the things that I knew about it, because it is also insane. Like, those people were going insane by the end.
Yeah. I think Norma was going insane by like hour 7.
Oh, yeah. Well, she just showed up insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, I'm not trying to bash on Christians or anything like that. So
no.
if you're Christian and you're listening to this, I'm not, I don't mean to attack anyone in any way, but I think that Norma shows up with this arrogance that she can manipulate God.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've been guilty of this in the past where you think like anything could be a sign from God.
Yeah.
Like if you believe in God, anything, like, you accidentally break a glass and that's God telling you something, or, God shows you, someone shows up at your door, it's a sign from God. They wanted a truck. They needed a truck. They saw the ad for the competition and they're like, that's God telling us that I'm supposed to enter the competition. And because God is telling me to enter the competition, he must want me to win.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the end, he obviously didn't.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, there
was a point where I thought she was going to win. And I didn't want to see the gloating, if that makes sense. I know this is like...
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's kind of what I'm talking about, is like the arrogance that came with her attitude of like... there was a line where she's like, it's early on, where the filmmakers are like, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? You feeling good? You getting sleepy or anything? She's like, I'm feeling great. I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning, so praise the Lord. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yep. I know.
And yeah, especially towards the end, I don't mean to laugh. It's just like when she's like, bum bada bum 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 bada bum.
Yeah.
And the filmmaker starts laughing because she's like, she has lost it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I love Janice. I think Janice is a person that, working where we did, we came across people similar to Janice.
Yeah.
In the past. So I knew the kind of person she was before her whole arc. But I loved it when they asked her, when she was just like, Norma was in the back just manically laughing. And she was like, I'm just going to tune her out again.
Yeah.
I stand there and look the other way and tune her out.
Yeah. Well, she even said that she thinks that people are like, or that Norma was like trying to basically annoy people or freak people out or whatever.
I mean, she was singing along to her tapes, out loud. She was laughing manically. I couldn't stand it. I'd be like, shut up.
I mean, to me, it was like she was possessed by a demon rather than the Holy Spirit. Like,
yeah, it was like genuinely scary at certain points.
Yeah.
Yeah, Norma was such an interesting character.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to like Benny at all.
Uh-huh.
So Benny is the returning champion. He won in 92, coming back for this in 95. And I like everyone's reaction to him, because at first nobody really, he's done it before, he knows what to expect. Is the mentality. And then when you get like 60 hours in, they're like, he shouldn't even be competing.
Yeah.
It turns because it's getting hard.
Yeah.
And he's not really showing any signs of slowing down.
Yeah.
That's when people start to turn on him.
Yeah.
And understand where they're coming from, because he's obviously done it before, so he can do it again. But I love Benny. I thought Benny was great. He was like, just so calm and collected and
very nice person. And when people were laughing, he was like, I'm trying to just stay away from that. But then at one point he joins in with them and he was like, there's something here.
Yeah. And I think you can tell that's his descent. It's the same as like, when you start to feel numb, that's That's when you know it's coming. And then when you got that little, Benny's foot is numb, you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's what he was afraid of,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't like Benny. I was super surprised that JD won.
Yeah. Well, they don't show him much.
No. I know. I was going to say, I feel like they interviewed everyone and JD was just like, do you smoke on filters? And he's like, yep. And that's like the only character we get from JD.
Yeah, but he was smart about it because he was the one standing next to Benny. And he was just mimicking Benny. He's like, Benny won before, I'm going to do what Benny does.
Yeah.
And he even like credits him at the end. He's like, 90% of it was Benny.
Yeah.
No. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I was very surprised that Benny lost because before I watched the documentary, I was like looking through the IMDb page, and I thought that I read in the trivia that Benny wins.
Okay.
In this documentary, but I think it was just saying that he won before. So the whole time I was like, "Oh, Benny wins." I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then when he gets out, I was like, "Oh, actually, I have no idea what's coming."
Yeah, that's because I was pretty sure that Benny was going to win again.
Yeah,
I was in the same boat as you. So when it went down to just JD and Norma, I was like, "Not Norma."
Yeah.
My favorite contestant, though. Oh, were you going to say something? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
My favorite contestant was Ronald.
The Snickers bars guy?
Yes. Ronald was the most unprepared person for this, but thought he was prepared.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the film, basically Ronald shows up and he's got like sandals on instead of sneakers, and about 2 hours in, he's like, yeah, my feet hurt. He's trying to send someone to go and get him some sneakers for the remainder of it. He's decided that all he's going to eat at first he thinks that he's not going to eat at all because his theory is if you don't eat, nothing will come out. But then he decides that he's going to just eat oranges and Snickers, and which I love. And then he's scared of thunder and lightning as well.
Yeah.
And then he gives us about it must be about 5 minutes about how the fact that the night before he knew he wasn't going to be able to fall asleep.
Yeah, because he's just going to be thinking about that truck.
He's going to be thinking about that truck, so he knew he wouldn't be able to go to sleep. He can't stop thinking about that truck, so he wasn't able to sleep the night before. Yeah. And if you think that I'm just repeating it, this is literally what Ronald did for 5 minutes. He just reformulated his sentences, but said the exact same thing about not being able to sleep.
Yeah.
And then he just disappears.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He's just like, oh, Ronald's gone. I think it was the Snickers or the sugar or whatever it was.
Oh, it was his blood pressure, I think. Like they mentioned that his blood pressure was high or low, whatever.
Must
blood
have been
pressure does. And and then his friend that showed up to pick him up was like, yeah, you can't be eating all that candy.
I loved Ronald so much. I knew he wasn't going to win. Same with, unfortunately, Raul. I like Raul as well.
Yeah, he was cool. He just had such a good attitude and like.
Yeah, I like that. Some people were just like resigned that they weren't probably going to win. They're like, yeah, I can probably stick it out another 10 hours and then I'm going to call it.
Yeah,
and it's just like, as I think it was Kelly that said, why would I give up? It's just wasted time. Why would I enter if I wasn't going to stay for for the whole thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when it gets to like 36 hours, you're like, I don't know if I'd be able to take my hand off, like mentally.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, you just keep pushing.
Yeah.
Minute by minute, how much further can you go? Yeah.
But it does sound like torture. I sit at work and there are times where I'm like, this 5 minutes has felt like the longest.
Yeah.
So just standing, no, I couldn't do it. There would be no part of me that would think that I would even get close to winning this. I'd last an hour and I'd be like, I'm done. I can't do this.
What did you think about Janice's husband showing up and telling the story of turning the AC off?
Yeah, minus, 6 below zero is how
I think you said 12 below zero.
Yeah. I think it just encapsulates small like Town America in terms of deals.
Yeah.
Just, there was a shopping centre that was going out and they pretty much gave me this AC unit for free. And it could have cooled a supermarket.
Yeah.
That's what it was used for, but he's just using it to cool his house.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and Janice are
meant
incredible.
for each other.
Yeah. They are. I mean, I think they just shared teeth. Because they just both had not a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the, have you been preparing for it? Well, I'll just turn the AC off to get Janice used to it.
And he's like talking about how like they stay up for 4 days on the regular without sleep. Like what?
Yeah.
I just love the delivery at the end where he's like, we didn't know that it would go 12 below zero at first when we got it, but we found out pretty quick.
And his little hat.
Yeah. Yeah, his Go Janice hat. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Sweetheart.
I think Janice's departure is one of the disappointing elements because she's real sour about it.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people was left and were like, well, good luck to them, but she was the one that was,
she's like, they're cheating.
Because she had lost. Yeah.
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 And then she even says that, well, she left on her own will, but she said that
she had taken her hand off and stuff. And
she was like, the Lord knows I cheated, so I have to be honest.
Yeah.
And then right after that, they show the, one of the head judge ladies saying they're going to get stricter on people taking their hands off or whatever. And immediately after, Kelly just takes her hand off.
She does, yeah. She turns away, takes her hand off.
Yeah. And I thought she did it on purpose to
gouge them kind of thing.
Yeah, but then I don't know. But then she puts it back on, and then someone I think calls her out, and she's like, "No, I didn't."
Yeah.
And they definitely could have gone back and watched that footage, but
yeah.
Still, I was rooting for Kelly anyway.
Yeah, me too. But like we said with the cameras, as they point out, there's two judges. But they're not. This is not their day job. They're just helping out. And can you imagine if someone had stood there for 80 hours and they literally lifted their hand off and you were like, okay, you're out. Having that job.
Yeah, I mean, even you can tell how hard it is because I think it's when Carrie, the other woman, leaves right before Kelly, and the judge is like, "I'm so sorry."
Yeah,
but you're out. Yeah. I really am sorry, but you're out. Yeah.
I was surprised that they did the drug test so late in the day.
Yeah,
I guess it was just
so
to catch,
weird.
Catch if they were doing anything during the breaks, I assume.
Yeah, to stay awake or
Yeah.
But also, people were very weird about drugs back then. I mean, still are, but...
I mean, I was half expecting someone to fail.
Yeah, test positive.
The way that they were building up to it, I was like...
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Hopefully it's not Benny. He's like, uh-oh.
Yeah. I did like that the documentary started to get very artsy towards the end of it.
Yeah, when Benny goes to the bathroom and they just
Yeah, and they just pan... Yeah, that... And then there's the shot where they're on the side of the truck, and then it just pans up from the side of the truck, and you just see Benny and JD there.
Yeah,
it was a cool shot.
That is a cool shot.
But yeah, so I did hear about this when it happened. I don't know too much about it, but other than this information I have right here. But in 2005, the competition was halted after one of the contestants broke into a nearby Kmart. That's the one that's literally across the street. Took a shotgun from the sporting goods section and committed suicide, which occurred during one of the breaks in the contest. And so, since then, they don't do the competition anymore. And that Kmart's not even there anymore. Right. I don't think Kmart even exists in general, but anymore. But yeah, so that kind of ended that.
That's the part that I wasn't really thinking about, is like the mental strain of being awake for that long. It's like torture. I think, I can't remember. Let me just have a look to see if I can find him. I think it's Russell.
Yes, I was just thinking of that.
Because he's hearing voices.
Yeah. Well, you can. Yeah, he's just like, he like leans over the truck, and the guy's like, "You can't lean," and he looks up like doesn't know where he is.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, he just walks off. He's like, "That's it."
I think, is it Kelly or Norma that's like, yeah, he was hearing voices, and none of us was saying anything, so he thought it was best to go. Yeah. But just the mental strain of it is.
It's got to be very intense, yeah. Like you think you know what you can handle until you're sleep deprived and can't sit down.
Well, like Greg said, I mean, he was a Marine, and like he said, if you slept, you died. Pretty much, like on some of the practice missions that they did. Yeah. And he leaves his family when he's had a break, and he's like, I'm struggling. Like, if I'd want to take my hand off, tell me. Even he is like starting to crumble under this, immense torture. But the one person that never shows any sign is JD. Every time they go to him, he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm good, hanging in."
Like, it blew my mind.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah, totally wild. So Robert Altman also had planned to make a feature film based on this documentary, but died before the project could be realized. I think that was in like 2006 or something. Are you a big Robert Altman fan or no?
I wouldn't say I'm a big Altman fan.
Yeah. I haven't seen a ton of his films or anything. I've seen The Player, but yeah, I don't know what it would have been like.
I don't know if this would translate well to a feature.
Yeah.
I think the joy of it is that these are real people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That I don't know how you would make like any kind of drama out of it.
Right. I mean, you could. It's like those moments of the competition that we didn't get to see. You could show those.
Yeah.
You could play it up a little more. I mean, you would still get the same result. I think by the end of it, it's just sad. By the end of it, like you're kind of rooting for people, and then by the end of it, it's just like, I
know.
Yay.
Yeah, you kind of it's weird because you kind of stop looking at the people and you look at the truck, and it's a bit like, was it worth it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like even JD who wins, he's like, "Oh, I won it for my wife," and he's like, "Come on, get in." And she's like, "No." Like,
she's like crying and stuff.
Yeah.
And Norma is just like, man, she's just like out of it. She wants to go home. Her husband's not there. Like, she's just devastated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, is this what God wanted?
Yeah, it does end on like a bit of a flat note. I know that they kind of catch up with JD and he's like driving the truck and he says the last line and everything, but it's still a bit like,
yeah,
how sad,
Yeah, but I mean, it especially watching it the second time, it also shows the camaraderie, the good side of America that you were kind of talking about, where one of the contestants comes back and he's like kind of cheering them on. One of the contestants that left already, and he's the one that's like comforting Norma at the end.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. And then there's JD and Benny who, just got on really well and are chatting all the time. And
and then there's the other guy that's like super sad. I don't think I wrote his name down, but he's like kind of crying when he leaves because he made such good friends, and he like even says like, you don't realize, like, there's so many people that you could be standing next to that you could make friends with. You don't even know.
Yeah,
you don't even realize it.
And that's what I said. I think that it shows. I was expecting it to show America at its worst, you know, and it really it showed it at its best. It's the most real view of the American dream that I can point to. You know, it is people working hard for something and achieving that goal.
Yeah.
You know, it was, it's a really interesting portrayal of America.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I like it too. I'm gonna have to show it to more of my family so I can find out if I know any of these people or if we knew any of these people.
It'd be interesting.
But I am curious what I think we should try to cast the Robert Altman movie.
Okay.
That was never made, at least for the top 4 finalists, which were Benny, JD, Norma, and Kelly. Like, who would play these characters? Okay. And we can do others too if you can think of them, but...
Yeah. I mean, Kelly really gave me young... wait, I forgot her name. we can cut this out. Oh my gosh. My mind's gone blank.
Do you want me to give you my first pick and the reason I decided I wanted to do this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Norma, played by Divine.
That would have been amazing. Yeah. For this time period, kind of.
Yeah. I'm Norma and I'm the filthiest person alive.
Just manically laughing.
Yes, like the laughing, dude. Like when she's laughing, I'm like, this is Divine. Like,
yeah. Because
it's just insane.
It is crazy. So for Kelly, I definitely got a young Hilary Swank. Like the vibes kind of thing.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got Divine as Norma, a young Hilary Swank as Kelly, and we've just got Benny and JD.
JD could be Christian Bale.
Or Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh my God, that's perfect. Yeah. I was thinking of Christian Bale in like Vice, where he's like playing Dick Cheney.
Yeah. I mean, Christian Bale could probably do a really good Benny.
Yeah. Or Matthew McConaughey. Yeah,
I mean, it's hard to watch a small town Texas guy with a cowboy hat and not think McConaughey, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyone else you want to give a go?
Oh,
I think that's the top cast right there, but
yeah.
I mean, Janice.
I mean, who could play Jan? Maybe. Let me.
Carol Burnett.
Yeah. Allison Janney.
Ah, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Nice. This is fun.
Yeah. I was thinking, do you know, for Ronald, his friend in Get Out, the TSA agent?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. This little cast is good. We should do like a fake little movie poster with them all side by side.
Yeah, for the T-shirt.
Oh man, yeah. I think that's anyone else. I mean, Raoul and Greg.
Yeah, Greg could also be Matthew McConaughey.
He could.
Any of the skinny white guys.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else about this movie? I'm trying to look to see if I do.
I don't think so. I think it's not one that you can particularly pull apart. I don't think. I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame that you can tell that it was kind of a super low budget thing.
Yeah.
Because it's never going to look better than this.
Yeah.
But part of the charm's there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I mean,
it is that it's like a homemade on camcorders.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of the charm.
Yeah.
I didn't think that like I said, I think that some of it was a bit heavy-handed. I don't think it was a perfect documentary.
Yeah.
But it showed more of what I was expecting, which was thumbs up from me.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think from what I was reading, the director, I think, went to high school with Matthew McConaughey, and so he also got, like, after I think it was done shooting, he needed like some money to finish it, the editing and stuff, and McConaughey pitched in some money, so he's credited as, well, I think, just under thanks.
Yeah.
And also Benicio del Toro is thanked. I have no idea why. Could not find anything.
Wow.
So that's just kind of random.
Maybe you just, saw it and kind of
talked it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it into some festivals or something, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is kind of random, but when I was looking through articles, this on the Dallas Observer from 1998, the article started with, "There are 2 words guaranteed to cause mainstream movie audiences to avoid the box office." Okay, 2 words besides the Avengers, low budget, and documentary. It's just like, wow.
Isn't that technically 3 words?
I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's weird. But also that the Avengers is on there. It's like, man, times have changed.
Yeah. I think, wasn't the Avengers, wasn't it like a British spy thriller?
Maybe.
I think.
It did like terribly or something.
Yeah, I know it. Maybe it was really popular in England.
Yeah.
Because I've definitely heard about it.
But they're talking about it in the Dallas Observer, so.
Yeah, so I assume it probably didn't do very good business in Dallas.
Yeah.
But what do they know? I mean,
also, I didn't mention, but that Kmart across the street is where I bought my first film.
Really?
Yeah.
Which film was it?
It's not
Okay.
Well, I guess it's pretty critically acclaimed now. It was Mean Girls.
Dude, Mean Girls rocks.
I know. But
yeah,
I had a huge crush on Lindsay Lohan, so that was my first.
Yeah, came up.
Yeah, walked over there, bought it, snuck it in the house. And then after that, it was like Kill Bill, I think.
Yeah.
Was my next purchase.
Man, what a leap.
Yeah.
I like these girls, but I want to see them kill each other. So I'm going to go with Kill Bill.
Mean Girls killing each other.
Yeah.
Killing Bill.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so weird, man. It's like, it's weird that this film exists and that I never knew about it until recently.
And this is the kind of thing that this podcast is so good at, and why I urge everyone that listens to watch along with us, because I would never have watched this film.
Yeah.
I would never have probably
sought it
found
out,
it.
or even knew about it. Or even if you had heard about it, you wouldn't have watched it.
Yeah. And now I'm like, wow. I'm going to watch, I'm going to show this people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you own it now, don't you?
Yeah, I sure do. It's going to be like those 3 songs I have on iTunes that when I'm like 80 years old, it's still going to be there on my Apple TV.
Man, I haven't even thought about what I'm going to rate this film. Okay.
I know.
Let me think here. I think I know. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know. Okay. Do you want to guess
4.
mine? You got it.
Yeah. You want to guess mine?
3.5.
4.
Okay. I should have said 4. That was my first instinct, but I was like,
yeah,
I'm going to go lower than me.
I think,
which is usually a safe bet, but sometimes we both have agreed, like now.
Yeah. I think it wasn't like, I think it was still amateurish in some of the elements of it, but it was it was such a good.
It was done well.
Yeah.
Like it would like they corrected it. Like that's kind of what I was saying, was like the editing was so good because they created the tension that it needed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like watching a sports movie or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I have seen Letterboxd reviews that are like the greatest sports documentary ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty
high
close,
praise.
I'd say.
Yeah, I mean Tarantino was like, this is my go-to pick for a recommended
great.
documentary. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, we did it.
Hands on a Hardbody.
Yeah, baby. So, what are we watching next week, Lewis?
So next week, this is a bit of a tangent, but I have recently finished a book, like a basic introduction to Japanese cinema. And it's not a Japanese film, but there was a line in there that has stuck with me. And it's talking about Ozu, who did Tokyo Story and stuff like that. And during the war, where he was obviously against the West and everything like that, he watched Citizen Kane. And it says in the book that at that moment when he watched Citizen Kane, he knew that the Japanese were going to lose the war because this movie was so powerful and strong and like showed America so, forefront. And it got me thinking about if any other movie had kind of influenced political leanings or influenced, beliefs and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And with everything that's going on right now in the US, I've decided to choose 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days, which is a Romanian film, I think, but it tackles abortion.
Okay.
And it's something that, I really want to... it's out on Criterion, so I know a lot of people quite recently have been kind of talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's part of film, is to show us a side that we would never normally get to experience.
Yeah.
And kind of broaden our minds because of it. So I have decided to go for that.
Sweet. Well, I'm looking forward to watching it. And it's hard to know. It's hard to know. It's hard to have discussions with people when you're on the opposite side of viewpoints.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't find the right words. You can't find an entry point. I'm looking forward to watching this because maybe this is an entry point for some people I would like to talk to.
And like I said, more often than not, the fact that this film appeals to me might be because that it agrees with my political beliefs.
Yeah.
And my leanings on the subject the subject matter. But regardless, I think that, film is a universal language. And if we can't learn from things like this and study it and, use it as an example, then I don't know what we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well said.
So,
looking forward to it.
Me too. Yeah.
Well, folks, I think that brings us to the end of the show. Again, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube's, Facebook's, at Film Church Radio. You can follow Lewis and I individually on Letterboxd. I am at Selmanscope, and Lewis is at WalkerLewis3007, and there you can keep up with what we've been watching. You can see our film diary. You can see our favorite movies lists. You can give us recommendations to add to our favorites or add to our watch list. And of course, we have all of our back episodes streaming on all good podcast platforms. You can go to filmchurchradio.com to see the different platforms we're on and make your choice. Please leave us a rating and review. Let us know if you liked the film that we watched this week, last week, any of the episodes you've listened to. And with that, remember, Lewis, if you really want something, keep your hands on it.
I mean, personally, I just can't wait for the sequel. Hands on a soft body.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, bye, folks.
Bye.
See you next Sunday.